Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Abigail Opiah and I am at the Tech Capital's APAC Finance Forum at the lovely Capella in Singapore. We have lots of industry leaders joining us today, and one key one is Masayuki Ozaki, NTT DC's CFO. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you finding your experience so far?
Oh, it's been great. Thanks very much for having me. My first time attending, lots of good panels, very good and experienced, participants as well. So I'm grateful for the opportunity.
And you were just on a panel. Tell me one of the key points that you found quite interesting from your other panelists.
I think a couple of things, right? So one is the complexity of the demand and tenants, understanding the different requirements and planning your investments, managing the assets very well, acquiring assets, land, et cetera, et cetera. So it's that complexity, I think, is one thing that kind of stood out for me. The other point that we talked about is, that AI inference, how that could change over time. It's still a sort of an emerging theme. And so, hearing other panelists' views were very helpful for me.
And in terms of NTT, how do you balance as a company growth opportunities in the data center space versus financial discipline?
Yeah, so that's very much the key to why they established this REIT was they were investing in data centers using their balance sheet, but then they wanted to protect balance sheet health over the longer term. So they said, we needed a capital recycling vehicle, perpetual one, that can take out stabilized assets for them, and so that's why this REIT was created. And so I'm very excited to be a part of that. The REIT, managing, being part of the management team of it. So yeah, that was one solution. I think they also would look for other capital partners on their development projects as well. So I think that's sort of broad, bringing in some third-party capital to support their data center investments. I think that's one of the key things that they're thinking about.
And what's NTT's portfolio looking like over the next, let's say, 5 years?
We have we have the unique benefit, and we're fortunate to have a global presence already. It's a very well balanced portfolio between the U.S., Europe, Asia, including India. So we really do have a balanced portfolio. And looking at our NTT's capex land bank over the next few years, that's going to continue to be the case. So no particular focus in one market. We don't see any market growing rapidly faster than the other one. It's just going to be more of a balanced diversification approach.
And AI has been on everybody's lips recently. You mentioned it very briefly just before you spoke about your balance sheets. Tell me how NTT is positioning itself to be in front of this demand.
Yeah, so NTT being one of the global leaders in the entire IT services space, they've invested a lot of capex already. So just in the data center space, they've announced that over the next 5 years, up to 2027, they're going to invest $10 billion. So that's one thing. Aside from that, they have a significant R&D spending. So every year, so they're spending about $3 to $3.5 billion just on R&D. So IT, research aspect. So, I think we would like to continue to be leaders in that. And also from, partnership perspective, we have strategic partnerships with a lot of, leading AI and technology platforms, Microsoft, OpenAI, just to name a few. So, I think that's some of the ways that they're thinking about continuing to invest in AI and technology.
Nice. And if we look 5 to 10 years ahead, what role do you see NTT DC REIT playing in the global data center economy?
Well, that's a big one. For us, right now, data center, most of the capex have gone into development projects. So, all the investors are seeing, significant demand and opportunities in that development gain, the development returns. But at some point, that development capital needs to find a home. Once those development projects are stabilized, they need to find an exit so they can crystallize their gains. And so that's where I think, a platform like an NTT DC REIT could come into play as the takeout vehicle for stabilized assets. And so if we can, prove that, this is one good way to to take out stabilized assets, I'm hoping that we could show to the market in our own small way, right? In one example of a successful sort of a full circle capital recycling model. So you invest in data center projects, and once it's stabilized, Singapore or whatever REIT listing could be one avenue. So hopefully in a small way that we could successfully operate and run this REIT so that we can be a part of a successful story in that.
And my last question for you is, when we come back to the APAC region next year, what do you think needs to change in order to progress better in the industry in terms of sustainability and, more importantly, making sure we are ahead of AI?
Well, I think Asia's already, collectively doing a good job. It's just that, as you know, Asia is such a disparate, region. So it's not one country, it's not one, single region, and all the countries in Asia are going through different phases of their economic, development. So we have, developed Asia to emerging markets Asia. So I think it's hard to say Asia as a whole, but I think in your own ways, I think you have to be mindful of the sustainability aspect, make sure that you're doing the best you can to care about the environment and do what you can, implement what you can in your businesses to be mindful of this. So in terms of NTT as a whole, we have a target as a group. So 2030, scope 1 and scope 2 net zero, and by 2040, scope 1 to scope 3 net zero. So that's our target collectively as a group, and as part of the NTT group, we're going to also employ that. So we hope in our small way we can also contribute to that.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yes, thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to the rest of the sessions.
Thank you.
Right,
and as for you at home, don't forget to check out our latest news and industry insights at techcapital.com. At the Tech Capital, you lead, we report. See you soon.